Hey everyone, JCS StarCraft here, bringing you Game 2 of the semifinals for the Go4SC2 number 36 Weekly Cup between BratOK and Naama. Action getting started here on Lost Temple, with BratOK spawning as the yellow Terran in the 9 o'clock position and Naama spawning as the purple Terran in the 12 o'clock position. Both of these players, some of the top Terran players out in StarCraft 2 right now. Naama ranked, I think, 25 on SC2ranks.com. with 1,600 BattleNet points, something ridiculous. And BratOK also ranked, I think, 34 with also 1,600 and some change BattleNet points as well. So it's some of the two most feared Terran players out there right now. Naama has been doing incredibly well in the Go4SC2 series. Both of these players did qualify for the August final, and BratOK was the one who ended up winning that. A very exciting series to watch. And although the finals for BratOK weren't posted up, the replays unfortunately weren't posted up. He kind of took it very decisively against Naniwa. Naama did lose to Naniwa in the semifinals, but bested Whiterah in the quarterfinals. So a very strong player, and was very interested to see in the last game that Naama took a very defensive stance against BratOK. BratOK is just known for his hit and run tactics. He does a great job kind of coming from behind and just, he has a sixth sense, I think, about where his opponent is and what they're about to do. So I have seen him down something around like the 30-40 farm count mark and still able to come back and win the game because of some very, very strategic play and kind of forcing his opponent to run around the map and just picking them off while they're moving. So one of the things about StarCraft 2 and just warfare in general, if you read Sun Tzu's Art of War, of course, it's all about being able to have knowledge of your opponent but not revealing that knowledge yourself. And I think BratOK, beyond just getting his scouting in, really does a good job of kind of predicting where his opponent will be in reaction to what he does. So keeping the drop pressure on the entire time. And I think Naama this game will also be going again for the 16 orbital, which he has been favoring recently. Terran play, of course, very standard to go with the 12 racks, 13 refinery, and then a 15 orbital, getting that mule out as soon as possible. But part of Naama's play, and it didn't show in the last game, which I was very surprised about, but is really to get out the Banshees to do as much harassment as possible. Terran versus Terran mirror matches, a lot of it might, in the pro level, I think comes down to supply line harassment because of just how difficult it is to catch up once you're behind in your supply line. And so, you know, in the last Go4SC2, it was Maro versus Select, and Select just was much stronger at that supply line harassment. Maro, I think, refused to put up any sort of missile turrets near his base, or just didn't put up that many, and eventually would lose the game because of that, as he just was constantly forced to run out and use the bulk of his army to defend, or even have his army split up. So, you know, those just two Banshees can do a significant number of damage if microed correctly, especially if there is an expansion going down right now. BratOK again going to be taking control of this Zelnaga Watchtower. Because they're in the close spawn positions, this Zelnaga Watchtower is very, very important for this game. And I think that it's just going to be that much more difficult for Naama. In the last game, he actually lost because of the Zelnaga Watchtower, as he ran out the main part of his army right into siege fire, and unfortunately by the time he was able to get his siege tanks down and out, they were already exploded. The Marauders had already rushed in. So BratOK going to be pushing in again with that early pressure, and possibly might be doing a drop, although the rush distance is so short this game. Now this late Reaper coming out for Naama to perform some sort of scouting right there, and BratOK trying to run it down at some point, although it does have that is able to jump onto the cliff. He does have sight on the cliff because of the Zelnaga Watchtower, so can shoot at it. And unfortunately for Naama, just jumping down right at the wrong second, might have wanted to stay up at that cliff. And so right now, going to be repositioning a few things here and there. Looks like he will be going for Banshees this game, which he didn't do last game. And BratOK already going to be going for an expansion at this point, getting his medevac out and going to be doing that early harass with the medevac drop in the back, something that I have seen Select has favored over that Banshee attack. And it looks like he's going to be dropping it out towards the front of it, throwing down a scan right now to see where his opponent's structures are, and looks like he's going to be rounding out and coming around the back. Now there is the supply depot, which will give Naama just a few seconds of warning that something is about to happen to his base, but those few seconds can be critical as he can pull his SCVs off right before too much of them go down to it. So looking at the reaction time for Naama at this point, if he's paying attention, he can pull everything off, and looks like he unfortunately was looking elsewhere for a moment. Now running his units in and trying to do some damage right now. Does have his Banshee and has exposed his Banshee to BratOK. So BratOK should be ready to counter any sort of Banshee at his base. Naama is going to be researching Cloak at this point, and this Banshee not going to be able to do as much harassment on the main supply line, but might be able to kind of pick off a few things at the expansion, as BratOK will take that very soon. And BratOK going to be throwing down a missile turret. Now 2 missile turrets, and I really like this missile turret placement rather than the single missile turret in the supply line, because when you do that, you still leave both sides very open to that Banshee attack. BratOK right now does not have enough for a scan, and unfortunately, because again, see, this missile turret is down here, and that missile turret was unable to finish. It's going to lose a few SCVs to this Banshee before he can finish that this missile turret or even get a scan down. So BratOK right now falling a little bit behind, and finally the scan does go down for him. Taking out the Banshee seemed to be already weakened by the first drop of BratOK. And right now looking at Naama just waiting for that second drop to happen, knows that he wasn't able to take out the medevac. Now the Marines are being dropped onto the cliff of Lost Temple right here, and Naama going to be building his expansion. Did see that BratOK already had his orbital down and should be taking that expansion pretty soon, pumping out more SCVs from the orbitals to try to catch up. As he is able to catch up with that second orbital already built. Naama looks like he wants to put some pressure down onto BratOK, hopefully getting him to retreat and not have this harassment there, as right now I think if he did push in, Naama might be able to do some damage, but now the siege tank is sieged here. Naama actually does not have any, his first Viking is out into the air right now, so can kind of use that, but does not have a superior Viking army. And right now BratOK going to be going in for another drop on the supply line. The Viking trying to take down the medevac, and it does at this point, so tank coming in here trying to do some damage. SCVs are popping down at the moment, and Naama not going to run off temporarily. I think he thinks he might have had it for a moment. BratOK just doing a great job microing everything there and just blasting away with that single tank. SCVs are coming in to fight at the moment, and Naama just falling severely behind in his supply count at the moment. Looking at the units tab, it's 27/19 right now. BratOK has established his orbital a little bit earlier. The second orbital, first expansion for Naama, almost about to finish at this point. So BratOK now in the lead with 28/20. And is already muling from his expansion as well. Looking at the army count, 52/46, and unfortunately for Naama is a bit behind right now and needs to come back in this game. Not really sure if he will be able to do it. I think part of what he can try to do is to take yet another expansion, as that is the only way he can actually catch up in the harvester count. Already 33/22. His second orbital wasn't finished yet, and BratOK was pumping from both of them. So even though BratOK was behind initially for a little bit, getting that early expansion down was significant. Now Naama actually does have far more Vikings in the air. Looking at the unit count, it is 5/2 right now. Although BratOK does have more tanks out onto the field. In the tank Viking battle, whoever has more Vikings ends up being a little bit more critical, and BratOK going to be doing a drop on the top side. Naama already ready for anything about to happen there, and kind of sees it coming at this point. So Vikings are coming in, splitting up a little bit. This lone Viking trying to take down the tank if it can. Medevac is going down, but a PDD is dropped down somewhere, I think, for BratOK at that point, so able to absorb a good amount of the damage. Look at that range of the PDD, actually. Anything within range it catches. A great PDD placement by Naama, who's unable to take it down, and just, even though Naama had 5/2, still had a problem trying to take everything down. Almost lost his Vikings because of that PDD, and now about to drop down, so not too much damage done by BratOK, able to repair the refinery at this point. And Naama still has control of this Onaga Watchtower. Looking back at the income tab, it's still 43/32 at this point. And now BratOK going to be coming in with some more Vikings right here, trying to see if they can take out all the remainder of the Vikings. It might be able to, but unfortunately I just don't think that it will. So right now, looks like Naama still going to have Viking control and might be able to push in on these tanks if he does. Taking a quick look at the unit count, it's 3 Vikings with 3 tanks over the 2 Vikings of BratOK. And now Stim being researched on both sides. Both players playing a pretty standard Terran play at this moment, though BratOK does have the advantage because of his constant harassment. And Naama finally throwing down that engineering bay, possibly going to be either getting upgrades or hopefully throwing down a few missile turrets to help deter some of the harassment, as every time that happens he does have to run back and micro that as well, leaving kind of his attention a little bit off guard and also leaving his army a little bit open too. Looking back at his base right now, it looks like BratOK is pretty firmly established onto his cliffs and can hold off on pretty much anything. The Vikings are rallied right now and doing the Viking dance up in the air. A third command center going down for BratOK. He doesn't really have strong map control at the moment. He is turtling in right now, but because of the proximity, it has constantly harassed him. And it does look like Naama is throwing down missile turrets and a very smart sensor tower right here so that he can detect anything early coming in. So both players just kind of settling into their own and massing up as best as they can. Looking at the army count, 101 over 96. Things are pretty even. Naama doing a great job right here, keeping his scout going and holding the map and just trying to make sure that his opponent cannot out-expand him at the moment. This sensor tower actually, I think, can even detect possibly if anything goes down onto the island expansion as well, or if BratOK is crazy and tries to take the gold expansion between them, which would almost be suicide for the moment. And Naama now is just going to be moving out, just double checking to see that there is nothing here and that BratOK hasn't taken that island expansion. The map will be divided slightly in half as Naama can try to go over here, and BratOK obviously will try to fly down to the 6 o'clock. It looks like BratOK was trying to scan onto the trying to scan for an expansion as well, kind of picked off a little bit by Naama, who does have sight of the Zamnaga watchtower and going to try to take off and pick off anything that he can out here. BratOK, I think, got a scan down just in time and kind of saw those Vikings there, not trying to take a shot at them, and Naama going to be retreating with them. They tried to hunt down that that medevac, and the medevac ran for its life right now, is able to survive at the moment. And looking back at what is going on the map right now, both players are just kind of settling in at the moment. Looking at the army tab, it is 131 over 122 at the time. Naama has been able to catch up in the harvester count. I think just has been a little bit more attentive to that as well, and just pumping them out as much as he can. Looks like right now in the production tab, not too many SCVs coming out, so SCVs are consistently being pushed out, and it looks like this expansion by Naama might be picked off actually if he cannot get there in time. And Naama dropping down, looks like he was going for some sort of drop, loaded up all of his units right there. Very interesting, as he's going to try to break up this stalemate a little bit going on across the map. And looks like he's going to be running in onto the sides. He is moving ahead. Where is he going to drop these units? Might be right on top. What does he see going in? He sees the siege tanks right there. Siege tanks are getting blasted. I don't think he saw all the siege tanks down here. And unfortunately, while he is able to take it out, just moving in at the not at the right time, and everything just going to get wiped out at him. BratOK held off his Vikings as well. And unfortunately for Naama, just now everything's just going to be blown apart as everything is landing on the ground, and tries to break up the stalemate. I think he thought he had thrown down the scan, thought all the tanks were up on the ledge, and if he had dropped there, he might have been able to get there in time, but unfortunately just miscalculated, and because of that lost his entire army right there. So great game from both players. It looks like BratOK will be moving on to the finals. I think he is up against Zok, so it will be a quarterfinal rematch of the August final. Should be very interesting to watch. This has been JCS StarCraft, and I'm signing off.